Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Marc Márquez says the upcoming flyaway sequence, which begins with Motegi and continues to Mandalika, Phillip Island and Sepang, will present his toughest tests of the year. The Ducati Lenovo rider arrives in Japan with a commanding 182-point lead, but he flagged Indonesia, Mandalika, and Malaysia, Sepang, as the venues that have traditionally bitten him hardest. Márquez underlined the unpredictable nature of the overseas triple headers while stressing his simple objective: stay with the front group and close out the championship when the moment arrives. Ducati General Manager Gigi Dall'Igna warns that the real upheaval for MotoGP in 2027 won't be the 850 cubic centimeters rule package, but the tyre supplier change. Michelin out, Pirelli in. Speaking at Misano, Dall'Igna said Pirelli's arrival could reshape performance curves and that past Superbike success won't automatically hand Ducati an advantage when MotoGP runs the new rubber. Pecco Bagnaia's 2025 season has turned into a headache for Ducati. While Marc Márquez has steamrolled to dominance on the GP25, Bagnaia, once the benchmark for the Marc, has struggled to find front-end confidence and consistent pace. Ducati engineers have chased fixes across setups, parts and tests, yet insiders say the problem may be deeper than a simple mechanical fault. Reigning champion Jorge Martin admits his switch to Aprilia's RSGP has been a tougher learning curve than expected. Injuries robbed him of much of the season, and now, after limited races and mixed results, Martin says frustration is natural but insists he's mentally stronger and committed to adapting. The focus for him is steady progress rather than instant results. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Márquez singled out Mandalika and Sepang as the two rounds he expects to be the most difficult this trip. Mandalika, together with Sepang. I've never finished a Grand Prix race there. That frank acknowledgement frames the flyaway not as a coronation tour but as a set of potential stumbling blocks, even for a rider who has dominated much of 2025. Mandalika's short MotoGP history contains a string of incident-prone weekends for Márquez. A concussion in 2022, double crash outs in 2023 and mechanical misfortune more recently. The Indonesian layout, curb placement and surface evolution have repeatedly unsettled him, and finishing there has proved elusive until a recent sprint result that still ended with an engine failure on Sunday. For Márquez, an otherwise methodical season still meets a circuit that magnifies risk over reward. Sepang's combination of high temperatures, abrasive asphalt and rapid direction changes creates tire and cooling challenges that have historically made consistent races difficult. Márquez pointed to Sepang's physical and mechanical stresses as reasons to tread carefully. Even champions must respect venues where the variables stack quickly against tire life, electronics and rider endurance. Motegi offers Márquez the first realistic shot at sealing the title, but he refused to treat it as a formality. With 182 points in hand, the Spanish rider acknowledged the arithmetic but kept the focus on doing the small things right, managing risks, tires and race moments, rather than chasing headlines. That pragmatic posture turns Motegi into a tactical weekend, not a victory parade. Márquez's game plan for the flyaways is simple: be adaptable, protect tires and accept that someone will be super fast at any given weekend. He stressed the importance of staying with the top group and letting races play out rather than forcing heroics where the circuit doesn't suit. For a rider with a huge points cushion, measured management often trumps desperation, and might be the best route to history. By naming Mandalika and Sepang as the toughest legs ahead, Marc Márquez has framed the remaining calendar as a mix of opportunity and hazard. He still leads by a landslide, but his candor about past failures underlines that even dominant seasons have tricky chapters, and that finishing the job will require calm, tire sense, and a bit of humility on roads that have not been kind to him in the past. Dall'Igna was blunt: the tire swap will matter more than the engine/regulation switch. He argued that understanding what the new tire needs to go fast will become the engineer's central job, perhaps even more decisive than chassis or engine tweaks. Honestly speaking, the most important change will not be the rule change, it will be the tire change. When a championship's behavior pivots on grip, heat management, and construction, tire characteristics can reorder the whole performance hierarchy. Ducati has plenty of Pirelli history in World SBK, but Dall'Igna warned that Superbike knowledge won't translate directly to MotoGP success. Differences in wheel dimensions, chassis packaging, and the overall bike envelope mean MotoGP tires will be different beasts. The Superbike tires inform Pirelli's know-how, but the MotoGP application won't be identical because the hardware and requirements differ. Engineers can borrow concepts, but homologation, dimensions, and interaction with MotoGP aero and electronics will demand fresh development. Dall'Igna noted that other manufacturers, Yamaha, Honda, and more, also race with Pirelli in World SBK, so Ducati won't have sole access to Pirelli's experience. The early Misano tests were the first steps toward learning the new rubber's envelope. There are a lot of manufacturers who will have some ideas as to what the new tires need. The early advantage will likely go to the teams that translate test data fastest into integrated bike setups, not necessarily those with a Superbike pedigree. With tire behavior set to dominate, development priorities will shift towards suspension geometry, contact patch control, electronic delivery, and aero balance that preserve tire life and operating window. Dall'Igna framed the challenge as understanding the tire's requirements to extract speed sustainably. In short, the job becomes less about peak grip and more about predictable, repeatable performance across a race distance. Dall'Igna's tone was pragmatic rather than alarmist. He praised Pirelli's tech but urged measured testing and smart interpretation of results. Ducati will lean on data, tests, and cross-team work to adapt, but he refused to assume Superbike victories hand them a head start. He emphasized the need to understand what that tire need to go fast. That cautious approach signals Ducati's intent to let engineering, not reputation, determine the outcome. Gigi Dall'Igna's message is clear: Pirelli's arrival in MotoGP is the strategic variable everyone must respect. Superbike success supplies useful knowledge, but it's not a shortcut. When the new tires arrive, the winners will be the teams that translate early test impressions into coherent bike concepts, and Dall'Igna knows Ducati will have to earn that adaptation on the track, lap by lap. Ducati's pit now shows a stark contrast. One side, Márquez, delivers relentless wins. The other sits in somber silence when Bagnaia crosses the line mid-pack. That split sharpens scrutiny in Borgo Panigale. There was little reaction on Bagnaia's side of the garage. A Crash.net source observed at Misano. Dominance by one rider naturally raises questions about the other's struggles, and Ducati's patience is wearing thin. The factory has rotated setups, swing arms, and even reverted engine choices, trying to restore Bagnaia's braking confidence. Short-lived gains, Balaton, Barcelona recovery, have repeatedly evaporated. We've turned the bike upside down. If we had a magic answer, we would have found it. Dall'Igna's statement. Mechanical tinkering hasn't produced durable results, which suggests the issue isn't a single, obvious part. Ducati's data-rich approach meets a stubborn mismatch. What Bagnaia feels under him often doesn't map neatly to log telemetry. Data chief David Adesanya warned there are human quantities they can't yet measure or replicate. We cannot clone Pecco in simulation. Sometimes his feeling doesn't match the numbers. Translating sensation into adjustable parameters remains MotoGP's hardest bridge, and it's costing confidence. Some point to Márquez's uncanny ability to ride around weaknesses as widening the narrative gulf. But Ducati pushes back, arguing Bagnaia was consulted before Márquez's signing and remains central to the project. Pecco is part of our strategy. We will help him come back. Mauro Grasselli's statement. Whether Márquez's form is aggravating Bagnaia psychologically is impossible to prove, but it does sharpen public pressure. If Alex Marquez or others begin to show the same symptoms, Ducati may find systemic issues in the GP25. If not, Bagnaia risks entering 2026 on the back foot, both competitively and mentally. Bagnaia's 2025 scoring pace has dropped significantly compared with prior title years, a statistical red flag for a two-time champion. With 6 rounds left, Ducati must choose whether to double down on bespoke rider support or seek larger package changes during off-season development. The problem with Bagnaia is not just lap times, it's an erosion of the interaction between rider and machine that made him a champion. Ducati's engineers remain confident and publicly supportive, yet privately frustrated. They can chase parts and settings, but restoring trust, in the bike and in himself, may be the only fix that truly matters. Martin's title defense has been repeatedly disrupted by injuries that kept him off the RSGP for long stretches. That lack of consistent seat time has left him playing catch-up against teammate Marco Bezzecchi, who has grown into a regular podium threat. There are points where I am frustrated. When things don't come naturally, I feel a bit frustrated. Interrupted preparation makes learning a new bike twice as hard. Physical recovery matters, but so does the uninterrupted mileage that builds instinct and confidence. A clear weakness through the season has been one-lap speed. Martin's qualifying has not translated into strong grid positions, leaving him to fight through races from the mid-pack. That problem is as much about extracting a single fast lap from the RSGP as it is about setup and confidence. He recognizes qualifying is his biggest weakness, and is working to fix it. Race pace has shown glimpses of promise, but MotoGP rewards starting positions, and that's where Martin must close the gap. Martin stresses his mental game has improved. Instead of spiraling after setbacks, he's learned to accept the process and target incremental gains. That attitude is the backbone of his adaptation plan. I think I improved a lot mentally. I accept this situation, see the opportunities where to improve and just continue. Champions recover from bad patches by reframing them as development. Martin's composure is exactly what he needs to make steady forward steps. Post-race tests at Misano gave Martin valuable laps, and he left convinced he's now riding at around 80% of his potential on the RSGP. That progress underlines that experience, not instant magic, will unlock his performance. The Monday test allowed deeper work on setup and lines that race weekends don't always permit. Tests are where adaptation happens. If Martin converts that 80% into race weekends, results should follow. With limited rounds left, Martin must balance urgency with patience. Bezzecchi's form raises the internal benchmark, but Aprilia's home race development and dedicated testing time offer the environment Martin needs to close the gap. I will continue until I get to what I want. When the first podium or victory arrives, I will make a big party. The clock is ticking, but Martin's mentality and the team's support suggest this is adaptation, not decline. If he keeps converting test gains into qualifying improvements, the championship defense can still regain momentum. Jorge Martin's 2025 has become a study in managed recovery, physical rehabilitation, new bike learning, and the grind of regaining one-lap speed. Frustration is an honest reaction, but his resolve and clearer mental approach are positive signs. The next few events will reveal whether the process yields faster qualifying laps and the race results. Martin needs to show he can be a title force again on Aprilia. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and see you next time.